Hey guys, it's Rob here and welcome back to another video. In this video, we are going to be talking about Mario and Luigi Brothership and details from the Nintendo Life article that has a preview on the game. So this is going to be a lot of cool information from the game and stuff that is going to get us excited for Mario and Luigi Brothership, because I am really excited. It looks so good. But with that being said, let's jump into the information. First up, they talk about the setup of Mario and Luigi Brothership. They said those familiar with the series might have to temper their weird radar as far as Brothership's setup is concerned. From what we saw, there's no time traveling, UFOs, dream dimensions, or miniature tours around the internal organs to be found here. The mystical world of Concordia has been split into different islands, and it's up to Mario and Luigi to stitch them back together. It all seems rather tame when we put it like that, but fear not, the series' central silliness is all too present and correct. So I think that's something that is really great, that it's going to be similar to past games, but it's still going to be different in the way that it makes it its own thing. I feel like a lot of games sometimes do fall into that trap of where it just feels like it's another game. Looking at you, Ubisoft. I mean, don't get me wrong, I do love some games that do kind of borrow from past games and feel very similar to the previous games, but sometimes it's to the point where it actually ruins the game, you know what I mean? But it seems that it is similar to past games, but it's still its own thing, and I think that's the right way to go about it. In our hands-on time, we visit two different islands that the bros set out to reunite: Twisty Island, which we were told crops up in the first few hours of the game, and Merry-Go Island, which appears around 5 hours in. So that right there tells me that the places that we're going to be spending time in these in the first 5 hours is going to be pretty significant. Usually when it comes to games, you usually spend a little bit of time in the first area, maybe an hour at most, and then you move on to the next area, but it seems like there's going to be pretty substantial things to do within each area when it comes to the first two levels of this game, which honestly I'm glad. I love areas that are packed with a lot of things to do. Now, some games can fall in the trap where these little things here and there are kind of boring, they're useless, they don't feel rewarding, and that's one thing that I want to feel when I'm doing like different activities and just things to do around this area, whether that be story based or is it just side content. So from the outside looking in on this preview that Nintendo Life did, it seems like we're going to be having a lot of fun in these two first areas within the first 5 hours of gameplay, obviously depending on how good you are at the game and how fast you go in Mario and Luigi Brothership. But anyways, let's continue. The two locales felt distinct enough in their visuals and mission structure, but they share enough of a common comical thread to make them feel uniquely part of the Mario Bros RPG. And don't worry, the puzzle platforming is still here. We'll get into that in just a minute. So puzzle platforming is going to make its way back in this game as well. For any of those who thought it was going to be missing from this game, it is going to be in Mario and Luigi Brothership. So far as I can tell, this is shaping up to be a very fantastic game. It seems like, at least when it comes to the first two islands, they're very distinct, fun, and it's great to be playing in these areas. It seems like the devs did put a lot of thought into these areas to make sure the player was entertained and having fun with this game. Puzzles are going to be making their way back in the game as well, and each of these two islands that they're talking about have distinct feels and architecture and overall just design when it comes to these two islands, which I feel like that's what a lot of Mario games are really good at. I think they're really good at making every area feel different. I mean, even Super Mario Odyssey, or heck, going back all the way to Super Mario 64, a lot of different areas felt really different even on that hardware. One thing I didn't actually expect when getting into this article was the comedy of Mario, which I feel like that's something that sometimes games do hit the mark on, comedy. And honestly, movies too. Take a look at the MCU. A lot of times they just ruin the moments with a joke. But anyways, let's not get into the MCU because I would be talking about that for hours. The likes of Super Mario RPG and Paper Mario and the Thousand Year Door have recently reminded us of how funny Mario once was, and Brothership felt like it was a fitting return to the land of wacky insincerity, which has been absent from the plumber's escapades for a good while. We were particularly enamored by Snoutlet, a new companion that lives in Luigi's hat and is very keen to outright deny any claims that it's a pig. Folks, it's totally a pig. So that's actually pretty cool, and this line right in this paragraph really gives me a lot of hope for this game. It all felt like a natural continuation of the series' glory days. And they continue on to say this was particularly true in the gameplay department, which is exactly what a lot of us are looking for. Where the bros' individual button controls make a turn and remind us of how powerful a system it is, immediately it took us a minute to readjust to controlling Mario and Luigi with different inputs, and our first few battles saw the the latter take an unhealthy amount of damage as we figured things out. So when it comes to controlling them, it seems like they're going to have different controls, which is going to be pretty interesting for me because a lot of times I do struggle when coming from, let's say, an Xbox controller to a Nintendo Switch controller. I kind of have to adjust my muscle memory on my hands, but I'm sure I'll figure it out. But anyways, continuing. But this control scheme is, as expected, put to great use here with muscles, or not muscles, I don't know why I said muscles, with puzzles and combos that frequently had us switching between the brothers on the fly as we kicked shells, climbed inclines, or played hot potato with a bug-phobic shopkeeper. This paragraph right here, everything oozes with personality. That's pretty much what you can say about this whole game that we've seen so far. The whole game just looks, and I have a feeling it's gonna feel amazing to play. A lot of this game seems to be really inspired by stylistic animation, and that's something that we've been seeing a lot in not just gaming, but movies as well. The Into the Spider-Verse movies, we've had The Bad Guys, Puss in Boots. I'm really excited to see if any other games, and it's not just, AAA games and Nintendo and Mario and Sony and all that kind of stuff that have been doing these. For a while now, indie games have been doing that as well, so it's really interesting to see Mario pick up some of that inspiration. Even Super Mario Wonder, it really makes me wonder what the next big Mario game is gonna be like. I'm talking about a mainline Mario game, of course. 3D to be more specific, are they gonna go in a stylized route or is it gonna look like Mario Odyssey? But anyways, let's continue. The turn-based combat plays out as much as you would expect, even if the brothers don't dance quite as hard as they did in Super Mario or Superstar Saga. But on top of the familiar button-based combat, Brothership introduces a new battle plug system. This lets you add bonus attack, defense effect, or dodge modifiers to the team's skill set, allowing you to do more damage or make button timings a bit easier. See, now this is something I love in RPGs. I love anything that lets you customize your combat to your fitting, and the reason why I love that is because I always like to find the most broken, the most overpowered combination that you could ever find. That's why I'm enjoying Destiny a lot right now, because the new season has a lot of cool stuff and you can just make your character such overly broken. It's that power fantasy essentially. And overall, I just love RPGs in general that let you customize your loadout and make your character how you want to make it. So it's gonna be pretty fun to play this game. I honestly cannot wait for this game. But anyways, continuing with the details. One of the modifiers that they say in the article lets you drop an iron ball on an enemy after an excellent attack, which they say adds a layer of strategy. Now they say these only last a select number of turns, but from the long list of potential plugs to be crafted from in-game, so they do have to be crafted, which is pretty interesting. Spark balls, which we found scattered everywhere, according to them, so we're using these spark balls to craft these modifiers, which they say they can be found everywhere, which they specifically say everywhere, so it seems like there's just an overabundance of these spark balls to craft these modifiers for your attacks and just overall customizing your gameplay. They even go so far to say that this might be the deepest combat that they've seen in the series to date, so this gets me really excited. But anyways, let's continue. Speaking of meaningful changes, the pair feels much more equal partnership than we remember from previous entries. Rather than being the bro bringing up the rear, Luigi feels more like an active part of the adventure. Now that's actually pretty interesting because a lot of games, it does kind of feel, other than obviously Luigi's Mansion, I mean Mario's kind of the sideline of that, which actually, would be interesting if they did a Luigi's Mansion and they did the same thing with Mario and Luigi Brothership where they all have an important part and they don't feel like a side character. Mario's not a side character, Luigi's not a side character. They're just there and they're part of the story. I think a Luigi's, maybe like a Mario and Luigi Mansion game, that would be pretty interesting. You could even make it multiplayer. I don't know, I just thought that would be kind of interesting. But anyways, they say that Luigi basically plays a bigger part than in past games. He doesn't feel like a side character, which I think is nice. They even give some detailed gameplay on Luigi. Luigi feels more like a active part of the adventure, benefited by the new inspiration mechanic that sees the green plumber provide hints or assistance at a press of a button, the L button fittingly. We used it all the time, sending Luigi off to smash crates, interact with puzzle elements, and collect items while Mario was busy elsewhere. It's no Pikmin style divide and conquer management, but it's nice to see that Luigi plays with a slightly larger role, beefier than the look scared and follow big bro one he usually has. And that is all the details we have from Nintendo's Life hands-on preview. So this is pretty interesting. Honestly, this just looks so good. Again, like all the stuff that you can customize your character, it seems like Luigi has a bigger part in Mario and Luigi Brothership. The fact that you can craft these modifiers and customize your character to how you want it, it's gonna be so fun. And also the story beats, the worlds, the first two specifically, because they only got to the first two, seem to be really fun. And we do actually have a timeline for the first two worlds, about 5 hours-ish. So overall, a lot of cool details coming out for this game. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, and I will see you guys in the next video. Take care.